since very few people are working, everybody's in the woods all day.
All day. Dang.
Yeah. I mean, it's still good hunting, still plenty of turkeys.
What's your thoughts if this continues through the fall, say through deer season?
I don't know. I have no idea. We're in uncharted waters here, boys.
Oh, yeah, that's what I've been saying here, because Idaho did the same thing. As of April 4th, they quit selling non-resident tags. So I kept thinking, what if this was September, like archery elk season? Like, what would it look like?
Yeah.
Might be really good, or it might be lots of people.
All for the locals.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay out, Eric.
Warb, where have you guys been so far on the old turkey tour?
We missed out on a bunch of our states that we were going to go to, but we've still been Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, probably leaving a few out. But we were trying to get to Georgia and Florida early, but that was when the virus was just starting. That's when like the mass panic was happening.
Yeah.
It was eerie though, dude. Like we were in Mississippi hunting when a lot of this stuff was really kicking in, you know, and people were starting to panic a little bit. And my dad works for like the emergency services department for the Missouri Department of Transportation.
Oh, really?
So he was up on like all the latest news and everything. So we're in a tent in Mississippi and he's like texting me updates and calling me all the time. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen, because then nobody knew, you know, what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys probably need to try to find a way to get home here pretty quick. He said they may be closing down states and, you know, you guys may have to quarantine where you're at for the next month or something. And yeah, we didn't know what the heck was going to happen. So at that time, we pretty well just axed most of our late March plans and just stayed in one spot.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys out down there in Mississippi in the tent, just trying to like still hunt turkeys, but then getting all this information coming in.
Yeah.
Well,
we ended up just staying in Mississippi and Alabama for most of the month.
So welcome to the Hushlife Podcast, guys. We have a good friend of ours as a special guest. Arron Warbritton is one of the owners, creators of the Hunting Public, quite possibly the fastest growing hunting YouTube channel in existence, I would say. Is that a fair assumption, guys? Never?
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet.
It's
yeah, you guys, when did you officially start your the YouTube channel anyway?
I think we started in late September 2017.
So
and
roughly 2.5 years so far.
Yeah. But what a lot of people may not know is that you guys helped us out tremendously when we were starting out. Like, we knew how to make good quality content to some degree because we've been producing like web shows and stuff for years prior to that, working for Midwest Whitetail. So we knew like the video production aspect of it and how to edit efficiently and post online and that sort of thing. But I actually met Eric at the Hoyt booth. You remember that, Eric?
Yeah, at
ATA
archery trade show.
Yeah, at ATA in 2018. And we got to talking about YouTube. And at that time, we only had like 13,000 subscribers, I think. That was after our first fall, you know. But that's when we really, you know, that I would say that winter and that spring before we did the first turkey tour was when we really started learning about YouTube and how things worked, you know, from folks like you guys, you know, the Guggen Squad dudes. And that really kind of helped jumpstart us and accelerate our growth.
Because that first year you guys did like I think, what'd you call it? The video journal series was like the first kind of.
Yeah, public and video journal. Yep.
Yeah. And that was more or less you guys just documenting your deer hunt that entire fall, right? Chasing whitetails.
Yep, just day by day, which is it's not much different than what we do now, except now we travel a lot more and hit way more different states and whatnot. Then we were mainly focused on just hunting around home.
So from 2017 to today, now you went from like 12,000 subscribers. I think you're trending at like 211 or 12. pretty massive growth swing in just such a short run cycle. And I think we were talking about this before, but the not only is it impressive, just like the trajectory of your growth, you guys have this unique blend of acquiring a lot of new subscribers, but also a lot of viral-esque type views. So your view count is really high and your subscriber count is high, which I think is super unique.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand how all of it really works. We just try to follow along through comments and discussions with the viewers and try to put out content that creates value for them. And that's just, I mean, you guys know how it is. It's like all about the process all the time. So you don't really, I mean, we don't really sit down and put it into perspective about how many people are watching or how fast it's growing or anything, because we're just solely focused on the process. Like every single day is like trying to create a video that provides value to a viewer somewhere. And it's just, at the end of the day, you go to bed and you wake up and you do the next day is exactly the same. You're doing the same process over and over again. Before you know it, you got a few hundred videos on there. And, yeah, you're starting to build subs and views and all that stuff.
Well, what I like you said, like you guys try to create content that brings value to the viewer, which is obviously super important. And sometimes, that value might just be might just be entertainment. But I think what you guys have done really well, and I was telling Brian this the other day, is like almost every single hunting public video I've watched has been somewhat educational. You guys always explain the process of what you're doing. If it's calling a turkey, setting up on a deer, it's always an educational video that helps somebody learn, which I think is super important because, and I've been saying this for years, YouTube is almost like the new search engine for information. It's like the new Google. Instead of like back in the day, you'd want to learn how to like change the spark plugs out on your truck. So you'd go read this article about how to do it. Well, YouTube's become that, but through video form. And that's how I like to learn, is watching somebody else do it, not reading about how somebody does it. So I think that's been very impressive from what you guys have done, is you guys are just super educational to new people that are getting out in the woods, or even people that have been out in the woods that didn't know, how to do this or do that. And you guys have done a really good job doing that.
Well, thanks, Case. It's all just, we show people how we mess up, and that's mainly what the content is like, well, this is what we did and it didn't work. And then we do that again and like, well, this didn't work. And then 10 or 15 videos in, it's like, holy crap, something actually worked and this is what it was.
So yeah, well, it's relatable. And going back to when we met, we kind of gave you like a quick rundown of what I thought would work. And we always talked, even, us three, like whoever takes like this platform and really runs with it in the whitetail world is going to absolutely crush. And man, you guys are probably, in my eyes, like the most relatable channel to like the broadest view of hunting in general, which is whitetail, turkeys, and you guys, I think, represent it like perfect. I think that's why you guys do so well, is it's so relatable. People watch it are like, this is just like me and my buddies, and this is what we do. And you guys do such a great job showing all your different personalities and skills, when you fail, when you mess up, and when you guys are successful. But we always would talk like, man, if anyone takes the YouTube platform and runs with that video idea of documenting and showing it kind of more realistic, they're going to crush. And you guys, you guys are killing it for that reason.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
It's been super cool to see. So for maybe some folks that aren't quite familiar with the hunting public, you guys got a lot of people part of it. It's definitely a big team effort. So walk us through, like, who is part of the hunting public these days? Anyways, it seems to change ever so often with the way you have kind of set up your intern program and this rotational group of folks that come in and out.
Yeah. The three owners are myself, Greg Clements, and Zach Fehrenbaugh. And Greg's wife, Mindy, is an employee of ours now. She basically just keeps us organized all the time. She's kind of like our manager person, if you will, because we are all, running all over the place. And you've hunted with us before, BMAC. Like we're not the most organized bunch. We're just flying off the wall all the time. So she keeps us all grounded and, organized. And then we've got Jake and Ted, who both work for us, that started as interns. and they're like my brothers basically. I mean, it's like just a family kind of environment. Everybody's got a little bit different personality, different style, and I try to just make sure that we don't hamper that. We have some things that we do as a group that you could call guidelines or whatever that we follow when it comes to production. But for the most part, we just try to let everybody be themselves within the group. And, I may do some things one way and Ted or Jake or Greg or Zach may do something completely different, but that's kind of how everybody is. Everybody is different. Everybody is their own unique individual. Everybody has or one person may have a different hunting style than the next person. So we try to show that in the content. And then Hayden works behind the scenes. Hayden Krimmer, we just brought him on recently. He works behind the scenes and handles all of the brand stuff with THP, like all of our merchandise. And that's something you guys have helped us out tremendously with, that we've just started getting into in the last year. But that's pretty much our whole group. And then like you mentioned, we have interns every year. Last fall we had Dylan and Grant that were awesome. And Grant ended up going back to school. Dylan is now working for Mike Pentecost and the Woodhaven guys down in Alabama, creating content and kind of helping them kickstart their YouTube channel. And then we just brought on Ethan, another intern for this next year. So, and that's real important to like the whole internship process, because we were all interns at Midwest Whitetail when we started. Like I started as working for Bill at Midwest Whitetail as an intern in 2011. And so
if someone doesn't know what Midwest Whitetail is, explain exactly what you guys did and how you guys the three founders anyway, came to me to be.
Yeah. I started at Midwest Whitetail in 2011 as an intern. When I went there as an intern, Greg was already working as a full-time employee. And several years went by. I eventually got hired. Bill hired me on to be a video producer and to produce a turkey hunting series called Cabela Spring Thunder at the time, which was like a semi-live web show. It was eventually on YouTube, but at the time it was just on its own dedicated website, and it was all online content. So that's kind of where we learned to do, I would say the rougher, quicker, day-by-day style content. And we're always trying to tweak it and refine it, as we go and get better all the time. But that's where we got a lot of our experience in editing and video production and whatnot. And then I was the office manager there. I guess you could call me that. I don't know. We didn't really have titles or anything. But I hired all the interns with Bill for several years. And I hired Zach as an intern at Midwest Whitetail in 2015, I believe it was. So he came to work for us as an intern for a while, and then eventually ended up being Bill's cameraman for a season and working as a full-time employee. So that's where we all kind of met. It was kind of a melting pot, because Midwest Whitetail would bring in 3 to 5 interns every single year. And then the guys in the office would train them, to do video production, which is what we did nonstop, with all the web video. I don't know how many videos we would crank out of that office every week, but it was a web video factory. I mean, there was 10 of us working in there every day, and Bill had like 8 or 10 computers in there with a big server full of footage, and you just edit nonstop. Coffee pot was always on.
I think that was
that was great experience.
Oh man. And there's so many other people that came out of that program, think about Sam Solholt, who's now doing great things with his Public Land Tea company. Eric Barber, who's now with Vortex Optics, does a lot of their social media management. Michael Parente is now with Randy Newberg doing a lot of editing and such. And I'm sure there's others that I don't know of, but that produced a ton of folks in that internship program. And it's kind of like you guys have obviously transitioned that from what Bill was doing similarly now to what you guys are doing. And these folks that you bring on as volunteers basically is what they are, right? For a year. And then they have an opportunity to maybe find a place somewhere in the industry potentially?
Yeah, it just depends on if they're getting college credit for it or not. That's why we designate it as a volunteer or an intern. And, if you're an intern, if you're getting college credit, and we can certainly offer that. But we don't want to exclude anybody, so we also have like the volunteer program. And either way, it's not a job. It's just a kind of a service that we offer to bring people in and educate them about what it is that we do. It's like a job shadowing type of a thing. The interns or the volunteers, they come in and we don't require anything of them. It's like, you can come here, you can stay with us, you can go hunting with us, you can learn to film, you can learn to edit, or you can sleep and hunt. Whatever you want to do, we do so many different things within the business, photography, video, editing. There's the marketing side of the business, we do a lot of consulting work as well on the side. There's all these different little aspects that we have going on. And when we bring an intern on, we encourage them to learn about as many or as little as they want. It's totally up to them. They basically create to their own learning. They're responsible for it. So they can learn as much as they possibly want in that time frame that they're with us, if they choose to do so. We just try to help them do that, because without those internships at Midwest Whitetail, we would have had a hard time getting into this industry. As you guys know, it's not a very big industry, and a lot of people want to get into it, and it's really difficult to get into. So that's the main reason why we do it, is just to offer some young, passionate folks a way to get their foot in the door.
I think that's awesome. How do you go about hiring interns? We get a lot of people reach out to us through, Instagram or whatever social media platform, and want to do what we're doing, and they want advice on how to do it. And we have advice for them, but how do you guys go about actually hiring somebody to come be an intern or a volunteer? What's the process look like?
We usually just put a post up on social. We'll mention something in a YouTube video, and we'll just encourage people to send us like a cover letter breakdown, sort of a rough application of what their goals are, where they're at in life, like what kind of degree they're in, and then what their goals are moving forward. Like, do you want to be in the hunting industry? What do you want to learn, basically? And then we get all these applicants that come in, and then we contact them. And what I'm looking for when we're trying to pick an intern is not necessarily somebody that's got like a media degree or anything like that, which I think would surprise a lot of people. What we're looking for in an intern is somebody that just truly loves to hunt. And it's obvious to us when talking to them that this is something they have a like extreme passion for, that this is something that they want to do for a living, because those are the people that we can help the most. The people that just want to be on a pro staff and be on a hunting video, but that haven't really thought about this as an actual career. We still encourage them to apply, but we can't help them as much as we can somebody that is really dedicated to this.
That's cool, because there's definitely a difference between someone who wants all that, like learn and grow and learn the industry and learn social media and everything, than someone who just wants to kind of film hunts and have fun with it. But which makes me wonder, like for you personally, how long ago or when in your life were you like, I want to make videos, I want to make a living doing hunting and content?
Well, I was lucky, because when I was like 10 or 11 years old, me and my cousin would wait until the Monster Bucks tapes came out at Walmart every summer. And they would usually finish them in like July. And they would, we would call Walmart and figure out when they were going to get them. And we would be up there that day. We'd beg my aunt or my mom to take us up there. And we would buy those tapes and then go home and watch them over and over again. And occasionally we'd hit pause, go out in the yard and hang a tree stand or shoot our bows or whatever. So long story short, we were obsessed with hunting videos when they were just starting to become relevant, and this is before DVDs or anything like that. So that's what we wanted to do. We were young kids, 10, 11 years old, and packing around my aunt's video camera in the woods and just ruining the thing, you know, and not knowing what in the hell we're doing at all. But at that point, it kind of started right there. And I always just tried to progress into that. I mean, I was in high school eventually, and then playing sports, and then in college, and always doing something else. I mean, I had a lot of other jobs and stuff, but I would always dabble in filming hunts and just building off of that. So like one year I got a little bit nicer video camera, and then for Christmas, 6-8 months later, I asked for more batteries for it and a battery charger. So I got that. And then my dad bought a computer for work mostly, but I figured out that I could put like a $40 editing program on it. So I went to Walmart and bought this Roxio Easy Media Creator deal, and then put that on the computer when I was like 15. So it was just, I mean, it wasn't anything that I just, decided I was going to do, and 2 months later knew how to do it. It's just been like a long process, but that's why I said I was really lucky, because when I was 10, 11 years old, I figured out like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to try to do it. And it just took, way over a decade, but
and like, it's crazy to
process.
Like my story is similar to that. Started really young, got a camera very early, but it's crazy to see, like, I'm sure you were the same. It used to just be TV. Like, we all wanted to be on TV. We had to have a show, but it's like, how do you do that? And then social media came along and really opened doors for, guys like us to create content and actually make a living at it, which is wild. It's crazy to think that that's the route it took. We would have never guessed that before the internet came out, that was even going to maybe happen. But for guys like you who did it because you loved it anyways for so long, when it happened, it's not by accident whatsoever. You've been learning all those years for many, many years. And now it's just like, we all have the same opportunity to get on social media and make it happen if you want it.
But same with me, how you guys would go to Walmart and wait for the big bucks tapes to come out. We have the big Sportsman Expo in February in Salt Lake every year. And I've been going to that since I was, 10, 11 years old with my dad. And back then it was like, you would walk around to all the booths that you knew made DVDs, and you'd buy DVDs, and I'd come home from the expo with, 5 or 6 new DVDs, and I'd watch those things all year long until the next expo. And then I would show up to the expo and buy the next, 5 or 6 DVDs that were created that year. And I remember the same thing. Like I got my start filming really not from hunting, but I was trying to become a professional snowboarder. So me and my buddies would go build jumps and go film each other. And then we learned how to edit from one VCR to the next VCR, and we push start, you push play on this one and record on this one, and then you'd stop, and that's how you make your edits. But I love social media now, because I was the same way. Even after I got married, I was like, man, I don't want to work at construction the rest of my life. I want to do something I'm passionate about. So I started looking into like getting a TV show on, the Sportsman's Channel or wherever. And it didn't take long for me to realize that was probably never going to happen, because I didn't have $250,000 to buy the slot, and I didn't have any companies that were willing to give me that money to believe in this idea that I had. And then that's when social media came along, and like Eric was saying, it gives anybody and everybody the opportunity to create content if you're really wanting to do that. And whatever, and I have, we have people come up to us all the time and tell us about this idea or that idea, and it might not even be hunting. And I always tell people, like, if you're passionate about it, there's a group of people out in the world that are passionate about it. And if you want to like create that content, create it, because somebody will watch it, even if it's not hunting, whatever it might be, like farming, like whatever it might be. There's people out there that are willing to watch it. And that's kind of how this whole thing started for us. Was, luckily my brother had foreseen like what YouTube could be. And when he started doing YouTube, 10, 11 years ago, there was definitely no hunters on YouTube watching it. But luckily he kind of like showed me like one day that could be, and that's what it's doing now, right? Like everyone used to watch hunting shows on TV. Now I think in the last couple of years, it's really making the shift that I think people are obtaining their entertainment hunting wise through online, if it's YouTube or whatever it might be.
So Warb, for folks listening that maybe aren't as familiar with the hunting public, compare and contrast what you guys are producing versus what a lot of Western hunters might perceive as your typical whitetail hunter. I think there's a big difference there from like old school, what we all grew up watching television of these whitetail hunts versus the reality of like what you guys are doing on a daily basis during, mostly deer season. Obviously, the turkey stuff is similar, but let's talk deer hunting. What's the difference? Compare and contrast those for people.
Well, quick disclaimer before I do. We pretty much love everybody that hunts, and I got no problem with how you want to do it. Like, if you want to go out there and you want to hunt over bait, go do it if it's legal. If you want to go out there and you want to sit in a redneck blind and shoot a deer with a high-powered rifle, you can go do it if it's legal. Like, we don't care. That's kind of what the hunting public means, is like everybody that hunts. Doesn't necessarily mean just people hunting public land. It means the general public that hunts. So, because that's who we are. We're just your average dudes that love to get together with your buddies and go out and chase stuff. So, with that said, I would say the majority of the deer hunting media over the years has centered around growing big bucks on private land. And sometimes that's large tracts of land, and it actually started, I should take a step back. It started back when I was telling you about the tapes that we watched back in the day, the Monster Bucks tapes. Back then it was like those guys traveling to outfitters and stuff all the time to get content, which was really cool. I mean, we would watch that and we would be like, we would always wait to the end of the tapes whenever they referenced the outfitters they hunted on. And then we were calling them and getting like prices on, like, because we wanted to go hunt there or try to set up this dream trip in a few years and everything. So at the time, that was kind of the push that made deer hunting media what it eventually was. And then it transitioned into the deer management side of things, and then growing big deer on private land. And, then that's when you see the redneck blinds and the food plots start really taking off. Juries have been big about that type of thing over the years. But what we do is mostly public land, occasionally hunting on permission, private land, or small tracts of private land. Mainly because that's how we grew up hunting. When I was a kid, I could go down the road and knock on the farmer's door and get permission. But as I got older and into high school, that permission started drying up. Like, I remember when I was 13, 14 years old, and I would either take Dad's truck, which I shouldn't have done. I'd either take his truck or my bike, and I would just ride down the road and hunt on somebody's land that I had permission to hunt on, or public land. It was like the opportunities were endless. By the time I was 18 and leaving high school, it's like, man, I didn't have permission to hunt hardly anywhere. And I was hunting on our 100-acre farm more and more and more in public land down the road, just simply because those were the only options I had. And obviously, as you guys know, that's gotten worse and worse and worse. Like, the access problem has become just a monstrous issue across the board for hunting all over the country. But especially for whitetail hunting, what has happened is the deer management side of things has blown up. Growing big bucks on private land, there's been a lot of media that's shown people that you can do that if you have enough land in the right area and you practice a certain process, you can grow bigger deer. So consequently, that's increased the value of hunting land, and it's made it a very, very hot commodity. So now you can't go down the road and knock on the farmer's door to get permission because somebody's paying him a lot of money to lease his land, or they've bought it for hunting rights and they're managing it for deer. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, we looked at that and we realized in order for hunting to continue to grow, or to even bounce back from the decline that we've experienced in the last 10 years, we have to start to show people that you have opportunities out there that you can go and hunt for nothing. Because a 14-year-old kid with 2 nickels in his pocket ain't going to be able to go and buy 40 acres or 400 or whatever. Like, they're going to have to hunt public land. They're going to have to hunt on private land somewhere, small tracts, and get permission. So with that said, that's kind of the route that we took from the beginning of the hunting public. It's like, we're going to try to hunt property where everybody can go, just to show people that, and you get people fired up about going, especially the new hunters.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say we're different from the majority of the rest of the whitetail hunting media, if you will.
Do you get much pushback from like maybe that crowd or others about the way you do things or the way you talk about that topic or anything at all?
No, I mean, your viewers and your typical YouTube comments, you're going to have all sorts of people from different camps just firing away nonstop. But for the most part, the other people in the industry, the other producers that are doing it a different way, they all seem to like what we're doing because they all came from that.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Mark Drury on the phone, and like he was super pumped about it because that's what he used to do when he was learning to hunt. In his 20-some 30 years ago, whatever, he was hunting public land or small private chunks and that sort of thing. So they still identify with it because they've all been there. You don't just wake up and buy a 1,000-acre chunk of land in southern Iowa to manage deer on. You have to get there from years and years and years of hunting and building into that. So most of them identify with it. And like I mentioned in the beginning, here's kind of a disclaimer: we never discourage people from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
In our videos, we don't, or at least we try not to come across that way as if we're kind of trying to slap them in the face in any way. We're not. We don't care. I mean, you hunt however the heck you want to. We're mainly focused on new hunters and trying to get them in the woods. And that's the best way we felt to do that, was just to show us hunting public land and on permission and stuff. So I guess to answer your question, no, we haven't really seen a lot of pushback. Here and there's been a little bit, but for the most part, no.
I think one of the things that you mentioned was the hunter recruitment side. I know we've talked a lot about that, and you guys have done some different stuff, whether it's at ATA or some different organizations. What's your forecast? What do you think it looks like? I know you're kind of really focused on, I mean, for those listening, the Western hunter is such a tiny, tiny sliver of the pie of the overall hunting landscape in the U.S. And I think that it's really noticeable when you go to these industry trade shows, whether that's SHOT Show, whether that's ATA, you just see way more whitetail. And the reality is because it just covers a bigger territory in the United States, and the majority of the U.S. population lives in whitetail country. So with that said, what's your like take on hunter recruitment, where it's obviously been isn't great? What do you think we need to do to get more people interested in it, specifically, I guess, to the eastern part of the U.S.?
There's a couple of positive things that are going on right now. We personally have never been a big fan of, I guess you could say, the competitive side of whitetail hunting. So I don't want to say that that's a bad thing. We're just not a big fan of it because we want people to go out there and focus on the experience of what they're doing, like not so much on the size of the animal or anything like that. And something that QDMA has actually switched to and pushed very hard recently is their field to fork stuff, where they go into like inner cities and they talk about hunting for food, which is why we do this in the first place. You guys do a real good job of that as well. But I think that movement is really starting to grow, with Meat Eater coming on in the last 10 years and Steve really taking a focus on that. There's some light at the end of the tunnel going, with that narrative. As long as we stay with that, because that's always been our core reason to hunt, right? I mean, we hunt for food. We buy a license to go out there and kill something and eat it. And most people agree with that. Most of the American public agrees with that. Most of the American public does not agree with trophy hunting. Mm-hmm. So there's two different sides to that. But I definitely think that as the hunter of tomorrow is going to look way different than the hunter of 5-10 years ago. Hunter of 2030 is going to be completely different.
It'll be interesting. to see what happens of this coronavirus. There's a lot of meat processing facilities that are currently shutting down. There's rumors of shortage in the supply chain for chicken and pork and beef. And I'll be curious how that impacts more people maybe wanting to, go out and do the field to fork type of a thing. It's so easily available, specifically out in the Midwest and the East. I mean, gosh, we're not as versed of it, but there's so many states where you can take multiple deer at relatively low cost if you're a resident. And I think that can be very appealing if we continue to see this potential shortage of meat, in the coming months.
I agree. And that the sort of hunt for food attitude is what we can really, it's sort of our rallying cry that we can push forward to gain more hunters in the next 10, 15 years. But the state agencies also need to really get on board with digital mentorship. That's something that I've talked to a lot of them about recently, because, and even like the big conservation groups, all the big foundations, elk, turkey, pheasants, deer, all of them. Most of them have departments focused on mentorship, like teaching people how to hunt. And the old way they did that was they created these events where they would have mentors come in, and then they would have new hunters come in, and they would teach them hands-on, which is awesome. But like Casey mentioned earlier, when you're trying to figure out how to change the spark plugs in your truck, you're not going to go to an event and learn to do it. And you're also not going to read it. You're going to go online and you're going to watch a video on how to do it. So that's what we've really been trying to push, is the education side through YouTube. It's like you can teach somebody how to do 80% of this stuff just through videos online. And I know that the phones are a dangerous thing, because everybody's just in them nonstop, and people are scared to death that their kids are going to become zombies. And they might, I get it. But like, this is the future. This is how we learn now. So you need to have some sort of digital mentorship program in every single state tied to your R3 program that can help teach people. I think that's going to be a big deal moving forward as well.
What's the feedback been so far for some of the conversations you've had with different state agencies or different, conservation groups that you've kind of pitched this idea to?
It's been fairly good. The biggest issue is like it's corporate America. There's so many people involved. There's so many moving parts that it's hard to just snap your fingers and get this stuff kicked into gear. Mm-hmm. For us, we can wake up in the morning and be like, hey, we need to teach viewers how to cook an elk roast today. So we can just go make the video and post it. But for these bigger agencies that have hundreds or thousands of employees or whatever, and lots of different things going on, they got to push through a lot of red tape in order to get one of these deals moving. And that's especially hard when you've got 25 people over you that have to approve that, down the ladder. It takes a long time. And it's lots of just saying the same stuff to them over and over and over again, and showing them the numbers and showing them the data and being like, you guys got to get with the program here. But they're slowly starting to do it. It's definitely frustrating to see how long it's taken, but they're moving that direction, which is encouraging. Yeah, most of them know that there's a serious problem, because 15 years ago there weren't R3 departments in a lot of these places, or if there was, they were understaffed and underfunded and everything, because it wasn't a huge issue. Now they're funneling money in there and hiring people nonstop to run those programs.
I think that's pretty important that you brought that up, because like when we were trying to break into this industry, and we obviously we were making videos and uploading them, but when we went out and actually were seeking sponsorship and trying to get this industry to believe in what we were doing, it was pretty tough at first, because you had a lot of those old school mentalities of TV, print, stuff like that was what they always kind of spent their marketing dollars towards. And then we come along with this idea of a YouTube channel, and to most of them it seemed like it was just like, what are you even talking about? And so we started making the phrase that the hunting and outdoor industry seems like it's always seemed like it was like 10 years behind mainstream media. And now you start talking about, local like state agencies and conservation groups, they're probably even a little bit more behind than the rest of the industry. And so it's funny that when you were saying that like they know what they need to do, but it's just hard for them to actually like turn that switch and do it because they have a lot of old school thinking. I believe in those states and those agencies. But like what you're saying, we can wake up every day and be like, hey guys, we need to do a better job at that. We need to do a better job at getting kids in the woods. How do we do that? And we can do that because that's what YouTube is. And that's the beauty of it, is we don't have any hoops to jump through. As long as we're not breaking the YouTube guidelines, we can do and create anything that we think is important and is valuable. And I think that's why there's a lot of responsibility on that. And I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. That's part of, we call it the 3 pillars of Hush, why we do what we do. And one of those pillars is it's called new hunter and fisherman recruitment. That's getting kids in the woods, but not only kids, like getting people. And I love reading comments through our videos of not even like kids getting excited about hunting, but like maybe a guy in his 40s that grew up hunting with his dad. His dad might've passed away, or he might've moved away from his dad and he got away from hunting. Somehow he came across our content or your guys' content and got excited about it again. And I think that's like the number one key, is getting more people in the woods, is making hunting cool again. Because I think we went through a long, like when I was growing up as a kid, I thought hunting was super cool because I was out in the woods with my dad blowing elk calls and trying to shoot stuff with my bow. But that kind of like went away for a while. I think like hunting just wasn't that cool to kids anymore. And now with these YouTube channels and these social media, channels popping up promoting hunting, like it's almost like I can almost see it within kids. It's like, it's a cool thing to rock a hunting public hat. It's a cool thing to rock a fireball hat now. Like, I think that's important, as you make it cool again.
Well, what do you say, Case, to the guys that come along that have been hunting for 20 years that are like, hey, all this public land's getting too crowded now because of what you guys are doing? And
they're just we get that a lot. And I try to just, a lot of times we don't argue back and forth, but I just wish they could see the bigger picture, because it's exactly like what we're talking about, getting more people involved, getting people started. And if this comes with, maybe there's more people in my spot, like the bigger picture is more important. So I always just wish, I'm like, man, these people need to focus on the big picture, not, hey, I saw 2 hunters on my favorite ridge and they get all upset. So, I mean, that's my thought, is like, dude, there's a bigger picture to this whole thing that we're all a part of, and that's to keep hunting a tradition.
Arron, you spoke to it a little bit beforehand, but with regards to like the competitiveness of how a lot of hunting kind of transition into, how big was the animal, that whole dynamic is intimidating for anybody that's new, in my opinion. If you're brand new or you're interested in hunting, but yet there's a lot of ego maybe in the way of trying to get into that first opportunity of getting out in the woods. Making hunting enjoyable, making it fun, making it lighthearted, making it not competitive, I think are all key components, which is another thing I love about our platforms. The perception might be from a distance that maybe the Hushin channel and the Born and Raised channel and the Hunting Public channel might be ultra competitive against each other. And it is the complete opposite of that. We're so not competitive. We're genuinely friends and fans of each other, I would say. We want to try to help each other. And that's what I love about the platform versus maybe, back 10 years ago, TV was very competitive. You never would see collaborative efforts. It was very cutthroat because of ratings and sponsored dollars and, commercial advertisement that had to be sold against your channel, and all these variables put up these walls in between television programming versus what we have now. There's, like we've said it before, Joe Rogan's he says it all the time, but there's enough room on the internet for everybody. And so the more of these channels that pop up that can show some of the stuff that I think we've done a pretty good job of showing, hopefully we'll continue to encourage not only younger people to get back into hunting or get into hunting, but then also some of these, older adults, males, females, you name it, whatever the situation would be for whatever reason, is just to get them interested. And maybe they don't end up becoming a hunter, but maybe they have enough understanding and appreciation that they enjoyed and they would support legislation that would open up more access or what have you.
Right.
It's hard for me to buy that argument because, as we know, like the numbers just aren't there. Like, like you were saying, you get the guys that are like, well, you're ruining my spot, by promoting public land, or you're promoting this certain area. But the numbers just don't show it, right? Like the numbers are declining every year, and they have been for a while. And so I think it's perspective, but I've ran into a few guys like that. And, to be in all honesty, before Hush started, I was probably that guy. I was a little over the top competitive.
I was definitely like that, man. Definitely.
I'd get into one of my spots, and there would be an old timer on a 4-wheeler that he wasn't really supposed to be there. And I'd go let him know about it. Or, I'd run into a guy and I'd go let him know that I was on that bull first. And I think I'm glad this all happened because it really put it back in perspective for me, because I take guys like that and we talk to them all the time. We run into them in the woods. I had one instance last year that really like helped me see like the importance of what we're doing. But it was literally a guy I knew and I kind of grew up around, and I'd always looked up to him because he'd always killed some big deer. And it was me and my boy and my neighbor and his boy. And it was in the evening. My son had just shot his second deer. Super cool day. He had it on his back. We were hiking back to camp, and this guy comes by on his bike. And instantly I recognized him. And I don't want to go too far into this story, but man, he just went off. Like, yeah, supposedly we were in his spot. And I didn't even know where he hunted, but we were in his spot. And he started going off about how social media is ruining hunting and this and that and how blah, blah, blah. And I stopped and I looked at my boy and I was like, to me, this is what hunting is. My son is excited beyond his, mind that he just shot his deer, has it on his back, packing it back to camp, like every little boy's dream. And then we got some old crusty man that comes up and just pissed. And he's saying that I'm ruining hunting because I'm getting my son excited about the outdoors. And not only that we filmed it in hopes to get other kids and other sons excited about the outdoors. So I guess I kind of use it as motivation anymore. Be like, if that's your point, if that's the way you think, I think you're thinking wrong, and everyone has their opinion. I get that. But like for me anymore, like getting more people excited about the woods is what it's about. And if you want to say that's what social media is ruining, like go ahead and say that. That's fine, because it's not true. It's not true at all. And
numbers don't back it up.
Yeah, the numbers don't back it up. There's not more people in the woods. There's less people in the woods. So if you're running into people, go find a new area, I guess. I don't know.
Like Eric said, it's big picture stuff. So what I tell folks is like, man, there's states like Iowa that are, big buck factories, but they're so low on the totem pole in percentage of public land, and their access opportunities are so minimal that their youth hunter recruitment has went down. I don't know how many years in a row now, but it's a bunch. Like, it's going to keep going down until it bottoms out. Like, what are you going to do then? So there's not really even an option. And I don't know if this will actually happen. I mean, maybe this is just, fool's gold or whatever and I'm super optimistic outside my realistic expectations. But I think if we continue to create more hunters, especially hunters that have that mindset that you're talking about, where they're trying to get other people involved, they're trying to get kids out there, they're trying to hunt for food, they're focused on the experience, then as that tribe continues to grow, you're going to create more public support, you're going to create more demand for public land, and you might end up with more of it in some of these areas like Iowa. It's like, if you look at Iowa, there's no shortage of deer hunting habitat. It's all over the place. And some of these states are starting to introduce these walk-in hunting programs now, where they actually lease the land from the landowner instead of somebody leasing it for private use, so that people can come in there and hunt it publicly. And I think a lot of that is driven by the increase in demand in public hunting. And as that continues to go up, you would assume that if state agencies want to continue to make more money, that they're going to offer people more opportunities like that. So it's like, if you're really looking at the long game here and thinking big picture, there may be ways that we can increase the amount of public land and the amount of hunting opportunities that people have through all of this. Like, what the guy that you're talking about is focused on his hunting spot and himself. And, I like, to your point, I used to be just exactly the same way. mean, I used to get so pissed off when I would go in to hunt public land and I would see some other hunter hiking in there. I didn't really get into too many confrontations, but I would stomp back to the truck, and cut my hunt short because I was pissed. But now after working with all these agencies and getting these numbers, it's like really scary to think about. Like, do you want to have hunting for the next generation? Because it's a serious issue. Like, and it's something that could seriously happen if nobody does anything.
I don't think that's what people realize is this is not something we're talking about that's going to happen over the next couple hundred years. It could happen in the next 10 to 15 years if you want to be real, honest about it. If you don't have the next generation that's as passionate as we are about, getting more people involved or even about getting out in the woods, like it will end. Like if you don't pass that on at some point, there's not going to be anybody to fill those slots that are buying those tags that are, pushing for more public access. It's not far away if we don't do something about it now.
That's right.
So Warb, circling back full steam here. For what kind of advice would you give? You've had so many people come through, not only at Midwest Whitetail, but THP in that kind of volunteer internship role. What advice would you give somebody trying to get into the hunting industry?
Plan ahead and really, sharpen your skills and build a portfolio, because that's what I see helps people get jobs in the business. We were talking about Michael Parente earlier that works for Randy now. I don't know how many applicants Randy had for that job back then, but I saw the opening, and Michael he'd been removed from the internship for about a year at that point. Well, I mean, he wasn't removed. The internship ended, and he left and moved home. And through that year time span, he was working on other video projects. Like he went with me on an elk hunt for Cabela's, and, we paid him for that. And I just encouraged him, like, go on all these trips that you possibly can. Go out and just create as much content as you possibly can and continue to build your portfolio. So by the time Newberg had that opening, I called Randy and I'm like, you might have a decent applicant here. I got 3 or 4 different ones that have came through the internship program that I'm going to send your way. Well, Michael at that point had went through the internship program and then had a year to build his portfolio. And I think that's such a big deal, because you're talking about 100 applicants for some of these jobs. And if you just have, a sharp looking resume and application, that's not going to do it. Like, you need to have a legitimate, unique portfolio that separates you from the rest of the group with lots of different experiences, and that's what most of these interns that come through the program, they don't just leave the program and go get a job somewhere. Like it is one of many building blocks. So I guess if I was going to give people advice that are wanting to get in this industry, start now, start working on your portfolio. And you don't need a big fancy camera or to spend a bunch of money. I mean, you can just go and buy some cheap editing software and use your home video camera or your DSLR or whatever, and go and practice creating content. And YouTube's a wealth of information for all sorts of things. Obviously, you can learn to do all kinds of stuff on there. You can learn to edit, you can learn to shoot photos, and it's just once you commit to that, then work towards that goal and be prepared for it to take a long time, because it's a difficult industry to get into. But that portfolio at the end of the day is what separates, you from everybody else. A lot of people, they decide like, man, I want to do this. I want to quit my job and leave and go work in this industry. And I'm prepared to do all these things and make all these sacrifices. It's like, don't work that way. Like, you got to decide that you want to do this and then plan to work towards it for a long period of time. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, Eric, it took me it took me a decade or more to even make any money at doing any of this stuff. Like, it just cost me money.
Yeah.
It cost me, my dad bought me stuff for my birthday every year to help facilitate this interest in filming hunts. And eventually it started making a little bit on freelance trips, but all those freelance trips sort of built into that portfolio. And then when I applied for the Midwest Whitetail internships with hundreds of other applicants, I sent that portfolio over to those guys, and that's what got me hired.
When you kind of started, did you always see like the opportunity as I can be a cameraman, or I can be on camera and kind of be the guy, the hunter? Or did that shift over the years?
I always looked at Michael Waddell's career real close, because I watched him on Realtree's Monster Bucks from the time that he basically got hired. Like, they hired him as a cameraman because they met him at turkey calling competitions. And then he worked as a cameraman for a while, and he learned how to produce video. And then he was on a few hunts, and they liked his personality and his passion for hunting. So they eventually started integrating him into content. You know, it wasn't necessarily the desire to be on camera or do anything like that. It was just to produce hunting content to create a value for somebody that showed people, you know, how much I love to hunt, because that's like my favorite thing to do. It always has been. So I watched his career growing up and was like, you know, because he was always talking about just being this redneck Georgia boy that started going to turkey calling contests and met Bill Jordan, and then eventually kind of progressed into what he became in the industry. It's like, you know, when you put that into perspective, it's a long road to get there. And you have to be prepared to walk that in order to get to that point. So no, I guess I didn't really think about being on camera or hosting a show or anything like that. It was just like figuring out how the hell to make videos.
So, yeah, it is. Real quick, it is such a long road. We talked about this on our long drive home from our recent shed hunt. And, you know, some other industries, I guess, or whatever, I feel like people can kind of come out of nowhere and be successful. But in the hunting space, it's just not like that. It is a long, long grind. And I think it has to do with a lot of people, like, you know, gaining respect for that person, or seeing that they're consistent over a long period of time, and they've produced content for a long period of time. They didn't just come and go. Where other industries, I feel like you can just come in and be the star almost, in a way. Maybe you don't always know their backstory, but hunting is like you said, it's like this, such a long process to actually get somewhere.
Well, there's no fancy degree or anything that you can go get. I mean, you can't go to a 4-year school and get a degree in hunting and making hunting videos. And I learned that real quick, because I tried going to college to learn some of this stuff, and I got in there and I was in a radio production class in Springfield, and I'm like, what the hell does any of this have to do with filming a turkey hunt? Like, absolutely nothing. And we had all these big tape decks and stuff. Yeah, it was just.
So you talked a little bit about if somebody wants to get into the industry. Obviously, we've seen an uptick in amount of people that have started either their own YouTube channel, their own Instagram kind of, you know, page or what have you. And a lot of them are always asking, you know, what can I do to accelerate the growth of that? Maybe it's more views, more subscribers, more followers. What kind of advice would you have for people starting a new channel that maybe you're struggling to kind of get it off the ground, so to speak, and kind of take it up to the next level where there's some legitimate traction of people starting to see it? Because obviously it's gotten way more competitive in the last 4 or 5 years with the uptick of a ton of channels, a ton of Instagram accounts, what have you. What kind of things do you think would be maybe helpful that you guys have been able to do quite successfully for somebody with a new channel?
And I don't know if any of these are the right answers. This is just kind of my point of view, but I think you just have to be unique. You just have to be very true to yourself, because that's the thing that we see the same thing all the time. People ask us the same question, and it's like, man, I want to do exactly what you guys do. So they make a channel with a similar name, and they start using a lot of the same graphics that we do in the videos. They're basically just trying to copy and recreate very, very similar videos to what we're doing. And that's good. I mean, that makes us feel great that we got somebody out there that's encouraged to do this, you know. But at the same time, I think that's why we were able to have some success, is because we were unique. Like, it was different than what others had done before, you know. And that's not because we're geniuses or anything. It's completely by accident. But looking back on it now, I think that's a big deal. And that's the most successful influencers or content creators or whatever always seem to be very unique people, unique personalities, and everybody has that. It's just like, are you going to show that, or are you going to try to be like somebody else? You got to focus on the process. You can't just be like, oh man, I got to get 10,000 subscribers and I don't know how. It's like, well, make videos. Like, well, that's it. Like, pretty much that's it. Like, make videos and then look at that video and read the comments, then try to make the next one better than that one, and just keep going, and always be thinking about like what provides value to your audience. Who are you trying to reach? Like, what are you trying to educate them on or entertain them with? Have pretty clear cut goals there.
Casey and Eric, what do you guys think for advice? I mean, this is a question that comes up so frequently. I'd love to hear your take on it too. Like, what do you suggest to people just getting started that are maybe not to where they want to be yet?
Yeah, I think Warb's obviously 100% correct. Like, I don't think there's any secrets out there. I just think that something, Eric, like, at expos and stuff, a lot of people come up and want to talk to you about this or that, and a lot of times people want to talk to you about, their YouTube channel, and they're going to start this YouTube channel. They've been talking about it for a few years, and what advice can we give them? And Eric's been really good to ask them why. Like, why do you want a YouTube channel? Like, why is it that you want to start this YouTube channel? And I think that's important, because if you are starting a YouTube channel to become famous or rich or, replace your job, it's going to be a struggle. It really is, because it is a grind, like we've been talking about. It just doesn't happen overnight. Like, we have a phrase, everyone starts at zero, right? When you start your channel, it starts at zero. And it's about what you do after that is what's going to create your success or your failures. Is, are you willing to work for it, and are you willing to put in the time? Because it's tough, it's hard. It's nothing in life that is worth doing is easy. YouTube is the exact same way. It's not going to be overnight success. So why are you starting your channel? Because if it's for those reasons, it's going to be tough. But if you're starting a channel just to share and create content, maybe, get other people excited, then it's going to probably be a little easier, because you're not worried about these numbers and this money and, having a booth at the expo or selling shirts. You're just concentrated on filming hunts because you enjoy it. And I think that's what's important. But yeah, like Aaron said, like, consistent content is king. Like, content is what runs and drives our businesses, because that's what we do, is we create content.
Yeah, for sure. And just on top of what they both said, because those are all, things I believe, is like one thing I've learned through this whole process of sharing films and meeting people that watch them, and then also meeting with companies, because if you're going to somehow be in the industry, you might have to work with companies or, get some support, is as much as some people think out there that it's all about the big bucks and the kill shots and the size of the antlers. It's like, it's not. Meetings with companies, what do you guys stand for? What do you believe? What, are you positive? None of these companies are coming to us like, all right, Eric, like, what's your average score on your mule deer taken? Zero. Those things will get views and they'll get traction, which will help your channel grow, but it's not important. And then when we meet the people, mostly at the hunt expos and through the DMs, messages, and emails, it's the little things, man. Again, the main topic isn't, wow, I just love that you guys kill like big animals, or I just love that you show kill shots. It's not there really. It's, I love that you guys are relatable. I just love seeing those conversations at the fire, and the things I can relate with. I love that you're family friendly and I can sit down with my family and show, not worry about, swear language, and it's family friendly content. So as much as some people might think it's all about like how successful we are out there, it hasn't been. That definitely helps, obviously, get traction and get views, but it's really just about allowing people to get to know who you are and what you stand for, and, kind of what your message is. So, just create content that you enjoy. And also you're going to have to find a love for that grind, like making the content, editing it, and sharing it. Us here, I think we've all enjoyed it since a young age, or for one reason or another, we wanted to get a camera at a young age to share with our friends, family, whoever that might be. And now the audience is bigger. But if you don't enjoy that part, like, making content isn't going to work, because you're just going to be like, I'm not killing it. This is no fun. It takes too much time. Or I don't know. You just have to love that part of it too, if you're going to do this style in the industry.
Well, even on top of that, you got to love hunting, but like, even with our business, hunting is such a small part of it. There's so much more that's involved in just hunting. Like, we all enjoy hunting, and sometimes we just wish that we could go hunting, but we have to pack a camera around and tell a story. And so you have to be really passionate about the hunting part, but you have to also be passionate about the other part. And that's usually a bigger part of the whole piece of the pie, is everything that's behind the scenes.
Super good advice. So Warb, what can we expect from THP this coming fall, assuming that life gets relatively back to normal? What do you guys got planned for the old deer tour? Do you have any intentions of coming maybe a little further west than normal? What can we expect?
I do, for sure. I'm going to, when do you find out if you drew Wyoming elk? Is it like,
I think it's in May this year. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, I should, at least I think I'm going to draw in the special draw for Wyoming elk.
Sweet.
I believe I am anyway. It sure looked like, according to Go Hunt, that I had pretty bulletproof odds.
I remember when we were turkey hunting with you guys last year, I asked you, like, what's your dream hunt? Like, what's that one thing? You guys have obviously had all these amazing encounters, deer hunting and turkey hunting, but like, what is your one thing you want to do? And it was archery elk hunting, right? You want to kill both your bow?
Yep. I've been on a few archery elk hunts in the past, when they're rutting and stuff. And like, that's definitely my favorite thing to do. That's what I want. I would love to be able to go out there and spend the month of September in the elk woods every single year. But, we being out east like this, we don't get the opportunity to travel that far, that much. So every couple of years is when it's feasible for me to go elk hunting. But I love turkey hunting too. Don't get me wrong. Like, turkey hunting is freaking awesome. But
so here's my next question for you. When are you going to when's the turkey tour going to come through Idaho?
I don't know, man, but we need to get up there. I really want to do like Idaho, Oregon, and Washington at some point. That would be really fun.
Are you guys going to Montana this year? Did I hear that?
I think we may go to Montana, but they just are starting to figure out if they're going to open back up to non-residents or not. So we're kind of waiting in limbo there. But if they do open back up, I think we are going to try to go up to Montana and hunt Miriam's.
Well, good news. They are officially open for business.
Oh, sweet.
For turkey and bears, just as the other day.
We will probably be up there here at some point in the next few weeks.
How about the deer tour? Do you guys got any new places you're heading to this year?
Yep, we're definitely we're going to be doing the Public Land Challenge again. We went to Michigan last year. I'm not sure where we'll go this fall, but Pennsylvania and Indiana have been pretty high on the list. We just recently turkey hunted in Indiana, and I know that's a state that we're really going to focus on going to this next fall. And we'll probably have several others as well. We've been wanting to get up and hunt in like New Jersey or Maryland for early season as well. And I don't know if that
states after states after states.
They put on some miles, I tell you, between the turkey and the deer. I don't feel like it stops.
Do you have a big map of the United States, and every time you guys kill a deer in a new state, you mark it off? You guys should.
No, we don't. But I mean, that's kind of the goal. I mean, and it's probably nothing that we're going to get to in our lifetime, but we're going to keep trying.
Is there any state that doesn't have whitetails in it?
That's a good question. Alaska?
Nevada, maybe?
Hawaii? Nevada might not.
Yeah.
But we can still hunt deer in every state.
That's
a fact.
Yeah. So I guess it could be the deer tour, deer tour worldwide.
That's right. You're going to have to just transition species. That's all.
I don't know. We got a lot of these other states. Like, it's kind of hard to kill a deer down south in Mississippi and Alabama. So we found out the last couple of years. We hunted down there twice in the last 2 years and haven't came home with any meat yet. So
we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Really love the conversation. Absolutely huge fan of what the hunting public not only stands for, who you guys are as people, what you've done for the industry. And for those of you listening or watching, make sure you guys go give them a follow. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. You'd be thoroughly impressed. Follow them on Instagram. Check out their website. And hopefully with any luck, we'll have an opportunity to share a few more camps with you boys in the near future.
Heck yeah, dudes. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. The Hushlife Podcast.
Hey, no problem. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys, Arron. Like, your success has been very, very positive for me. Like Eric said, we've been saying it for years. It's a group like you guys needs to come along and just own the whitetail world and the turkey world. And you guys are doing it. You guys are crushing it. You guys are doing a good job. And we couldn't be more, grateful for your guys' success. You guys are killing it.
Thanks, man.
All right, fellas. Well, y'all have a great rest of your day. If you haven't already, give us a subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or maybe one of those review deals or something. Is that what they do on the podcast audio world, right, Eric? Some stars or something?
Yeah, we're back to 5-star on iTunes. We tanked to a 4.3, but we got it back up.
Anyways, we appreciate all your support, and we'll see you guys next time.